felt like a fever dream and not in a good way. Lots of things sort of teasing to happen that just never quite panned out, ended up with quite a boring and strange race. I'm Rachel, and here are my race ramblings for the 2025 Japanese Grand Prix. Let's get started with the race rating. I have rated it a 3 out of 10. Again, lots of things that like tempted to happen that never did. The pit thing, potential overtakes, nothing quite worked out. I mean, the top 6 were completely unchanged. Pretty much throughout the whole race, even pits didn't change anything. I'm giving it a 3 and not like a 1 or 2 because there was some movement in the back, and it was also at 1 a.m. and I somehow didn't fall asleep. So I guess there was something keeping me there, but like I literally was fiddling with my multi-viewer for the first 20 minutes and I don't think I missed anything. So that's not a good sign. And I'm just so curious like why it was so bad. I think I've deduced that it's a combo of a couple factors here. First off, it was very cool. James Hinchcliffe was noting that it was very cool, and with the new surface, there was just like no tire drag at all. So there was no room for that to have any play. It also meant you could go long, and pits kind of didn't work out to be anything because everybody could just go so long. Which is a lame issue to have, like just pick better tires. But then again, IndyCar is having a similar issue frequently. So at least IndyCar and F1 are on the same page with something there. Yeah, and it's just strange because it's such a good circuit that can produce amazing racing. So the fact that there was just nothing is, I think, it may be indicative of the cars not being fantastic, and by that I mean like the literal regulations of the car not being fantastic at racing. But then again, I think a lot of the excitement in recent years have been from rain, and given that we have moved around when Suzuka is, it is typically later in the year. I'm assuming during the wet season. It is now obviously very dry. Given all the fires, I wonder if that, well, that obviously has an impact because I mean, again, like threatening rain that never came. A rain will spice up a boring race just by, again, having to pit and move things around, which never happened. The one plus side of the race was I got to see Chris Midland in a lot of the F1 TV shows, which was nice. I don't think he does that often. This was the first time I've really caught it. I'm assuming kind of coming in as a Will Buxton replacement for a couple races, which is nice to see. It's nice to have his opinion. Though my dad did walk in and saw him and Hinchcliffe on the TV, and he said, they've got to switch one of those out. They look too similar. And I'm like, yeah, true. But they sound different enough, so it's fine. A quick note on practice before we get into quali. I just want to comment on Jack Doohan here. And you guys know I've been really like hoping for him to do well. What was that? Well, first off, why didn't they let him have a practice session? Why, if he's the one struggling and you're like threatening to kick him out, why is he the one you're changing out for FP1? That doesn't make sense to me at all. Like, actually, why? I don't get it. And then the incident he had in FP2 where he went through turn 1 with the DRS still open, which I think he had to like manually override, or he just never lifted to keep DRS open. And apparently he did that in the sim and it worked, and so he thought he'd try it here. Well, for one, like, what? But also, why didn't his engineer catch him doing that in the sim and tell him not to do it? Like, I think that's kind of equally on Alpine if what they're saying is true, that he was doing this in the sim. Why didn't they catch it? Oh my god, I mean, I guess at least it's a good thing in this sense that it showed he was trying to push. It's not that he has it's not like there's any fear or blocker there, like he's trying, which is important. But like that is, and in the end he like hardly got any practice time, and that obviously did not work out fantastically for him. But like, wow. And then a good practice from Tsunoda, which was good. That'll feel good for him. We'll talk about this later, but unfortunate it didn't work out to the race in qualifying that we would have thought he would have had given the practice sessions. But shows he can get the car working much better than Liam Lawson. A little note again on the fires. I think that's again an issue of the calendar being moved around. I don't know. I guess I'm trying to think if this is something movable, and I think it is. I think it's usually with Singapore, right? So that makes sense to and I understand that we're trying to localize the calendar, so minimize travel and climate issues and whatever. I believe this is usually in September, right? Along Singapore, which makes sense. I think we should try to keep it there. I know it was moved earlier because of accommodating when we can go to the Middle East because of Ramadan, which will probably be an issue again next year. But I'm hoping in the next couple of years we can move that back. I think because the fires are just not a good look. It's just not, and also the rain obviously does have an impact on making the racing more fun. So hopefully that can be adapted. Okay, let's hop into qualifying here. Max on pole was a bit of a surprise to me. Shocking considering the practice sessions. I really thought it was going to go to Oscar Piastri. I'm even surprised that Lando was P2. He didn't look too good in the practice sessions and was kind of complaining quite a bit. It seemed to just just be a good lap for Max Verstappen, not a car dominance, which is nice to see. Yeah, I have some thoughts on the cars in general a bit later and the teams a bit later. Yeah, I wasn't excited to see him on pole, just to be so honest. I'm like, I want the competition, but not with Max in it. Because every time I see him when I perform well, I'm kind of like, is it going to happen again? I feel like I'm still low-key traumatized from 2023. Leclerc in P4 was okay. Russell and Antonelli P5 and 6 is good. They're very solidly there. They're very consistent. Very impressive from Antonelli that he's right there with George Russell. I think George has been out qualifying and not performing him, but that makes sense for him to be so close. Is a good sign for Antonelli. Also shows the car is very much solidly placed. I feel like they're the only car that we really know how it is, just because they've been in literally the same place and both of them are there for all of the races so far, though it's only been 3. A really good qualifying from Hadjar, especially considering the issues he was having, the seatbelt being quite too tight. And then apparently that was fixed, but in the race the seat came loose or something. I don't know. That's crazy. But yeah, good performance from him, out qualifying Tsunoda and Lawson, which is not a surprise. I kind of anticipated that. James Hinchcliffe was mentioning in the post-race show that, when you're coming over from F2, you come to F1 and you've really got to adjust your expectations. You're winning everything in F2 and then you come here and you have to be like, yeah, obviously I'm not going to be winning everything. And he said that Isaac hasn't really adjusted his expectations, which is a good thing. He's like, yeah, we're P7, but like, why aren't we winning? Which obviously you know why we're not winning. The car's just not there, and also you're a rookie. But it's nice that he has that drive, and I think that's important, especially in the Red Bull environment. You have to really have that mentality and have that strong belief in yourself, as we've seen with Lawson apparently already being kind of crushed a little, diminished, confidence lowered apparently, which potentially helped make the decision to have them move. I don't know, but very, very nice to see him up there again. I really wasn't expecting much from Hadjar this season. He's endeared me. I'm Team Hadjar, so I hope to see that. Lewis Hamilton P8. Wait, dude, come on. I actually don't know. I don't know what the problem is at Ferrari. I really don't. They're just Ferrariing right now, to be honest. Albon P9, very consistently up into Q3, which is nice to see. He's really taking advantage of the time that taking advantage of the time that Sainz needs to catch up. Sainz still a bit slow in P12. Best qualifying so far, which is nice. Though he did have a grid penalty for impeding Lewis Hamilton, even though it didn't really end up costing Lewis Hamilton anything. Still, rules are rules. You can't impede people, and I appreciate that F1 applies the rules consistently when they do. So no complaints there, but yeah, qualified P12. Catching up to speed a bit, hoping to see that increase more. I do think he's on par with Albon. He's not worse than Alex Albon, let's be serious. So it'll be interesting to see where he finishes out at the end of the season. Again, just because with all the points Alex Albon is getting now, I don't necessarily anticipate him to finish ahead of the championships. Just again because I think Alex Albon is banking a lot of points right now that through changes of teams and everything Sainz might not be able to do. So we'll see how that plays out. Ollie Behrman up in P10 into Q3 was fantastic. It was very nice to see his excitement and his dad's excitement. It's nice when you can see the parents. It's especially nice to see Ollie Behrman because, we saw dad's face in Australia. So nice to see a happy face here now. Yeah, especially with Ocon P18, that's a great performance for Ollie Behrman. Just a fantastic lap, I think, is the conclusion that we got there. The car is not necessarily fifth fastest, as they were talking about in the post race show, but obviously they're able to get something out of it when they can. Lawson into Q2 is an improvement. He finished P14 ahead of Sonoda by 1 position. Kind of worse than I was expecting. Maybe on par with what I was expecting. I don't know. When you see Lawson P14 and Hadjar P7, that's not a good look, especially considering this should be an easier car to drive, and obviously it is, considering that Lawson has improved, but not as much as I thought he would, especially considering it's Suzuka, where he has a ton of experience from Super Formula. But obviously this is a knock to the confidence this weekend, so I don't blame him. We'll see how that turns out. Against Sonoda, P15 is kind of unfortunate. His worst lap of the weekend there, though it was mentioned that they only gave him 1 lap. Red Bull only gave him 1 lap, which is a risk. But obviously they were willing to take it if they thought he could get the lap. It sucks that he didn't. Again, like, literally just unfortunate, just bad luck there. But it's good show of confidence that Red Bull has in him that they were even willing to try that, I think. And then Doohan P19, which is not fantastic, kind of on par where he has been and kind of expected considering the issues he had in practice and the very little practice he did end up having. Yeah, nothing else to say about that. Moving on to chatting about the race now. We'll stay on the Doohan note while we're there, just because he started P19 and finished P15, so that's a good improvement. He did, maybe it could have gone higher, maybe not. I mean, I think he did let Gasly through at some point, so would have been interesting to see how it played out if he didn't. But you know, he can't push that. He's got to be a team player, especially if he's not scoring any points. But yeah, nice improvement there. I think that's something important. Verstappen wins a solid but not comfortable win. I mean, again, I think the top 3 finished it within like 2 seconds or something, a bit more than that, but like less than 2.5 seconds, which is tight, and they were pretty tight the whole race. So yeah, not a comfortable win by any means, not a dominant win by any means. They were saying that they think that this might be like his best win, and I'm really not agreeing with that. I mean, I guess I understand where it comes from, considering that they're like, well, there was pressure on him the whole time, which I do, like, I understand from that perspective. But when you've won by 20 seconds before it, like, this isn't fantastic. And again, you can say that's because of the car, and obviously where the car is now, things are a lot tighter and more competitive, but still, like, I mean, Lando won Australia by not a huge gap, and he had people behind him putting pressure on him the whole time. Like, it's gonna take a much more impressive race for it to be, like, I think Brazil is a much more impressive race than this was, Brazil last year. Yeah, interesting with the McLarens there. Verstappen and Norris threatened to have an issue with the pits. Again, like, a lot of things that just didn't play out. That pit thing was fully, yeah, and Lando was playing around. He knew that he had no chance to overtake him there. And actually, I think if he didn't push himself into the grass, maybe he could have overtaken it. Verstappen on track. Like, it's just so strange that he was within, like, less than 2 seconds the whole race. Never really got into DRS. Nothing really ever happened. I think that's a reflective of, like, again, like, no Doug, the cars being pretty close together, at least this weekend. I don't know. Just kind of strange that they were literally so close the whole race and nothing happened. I never even felt like anything was going to happen. With the McLarens, kind of interesting that there wasn't a switch. Norris finished P2 and Oscar P3. I think Oscar maybe could have made more of a difference. I think he was more threatening. It felt like he had more pace than Norris did. So it was interesting that they didn't make that choice to switch, or I don't even know if Oscar was really fighting. I don't think there was any radio comms about any of that. They were talking about that a lot in the post show, like, kind of a political decision. It seemed to not make a decision, but Laura Winters pointed out that no decision is a decision, and I super agree with that. I think right now it's kind of seeming unfavorable to Piastri, especially when you consider Australia, the call not to push, which I didn't disagree with, and I still don't disagree with, especially because it seemed like, just don't fight while we're overtaking the lapped cars, then you can try something. But when you didn't, like, I think Oscar had more pace. I really think they could have said, hey, let's try something. And again, if it doesn't work, switch it back. And no love is lost there. No points are lost between each other there. But also, like, why wouldn't you want Piastri to try to get ahead and take points off Max Verstappen? Yeah, it seems politics, I think, is really going to get in McLaren's way when it comes to the Drivers' Championship. I'm confident that they'll win the Constructors, but when it comes to drivers, I think politics and their own choices or inability to make choices is really going to kick them in the butt, and I think it's already starting to. I don't know. Leclerc P4, I never saw him the whole race. Literally never saw him the whole race. Don't even think I saw a pit stop. Just nowhere. Started and finished in the exact same place. Russell and Antonelli same, though I did see Antonelli as he led the race for a little bit with those pits. Nice to see that. It doesn't really mean anything because, again, it was just a pit cycling thing, but whatever. Hadjar finishing P8 is very nice. First points for him. He seemed very excited about that, and again, that's a great weekend for that to happen when there's all this change within Red Bull to show that he is stable and consistent and improving, especially when the circumstances are changing. That's a good stamp for him, especially considering all the seat issues in the qualifying. And like the fact that he was like, I'm so sorry if this messed up qualifying, and then he's qualified the best he has and he's finished the race with points. That's very nice to see. Bearman points is very nice as well. Very excited to see that. I don't think this is his first points in F1 ever. I believe he got that sometime last year, but first points of the season. Alex Albon again, P9, again, stocking up those points while he potentially can. Don't know if that's going to fall off. Sonoda P12 kind of sucks. Again, not really what he maybe deserved. That's the theme with Sonoda. It seems like he has the performance and then something happens. Something gets in the way and he doesn't have... The outcome is not what it should be for whatever reason. So hopefully that can improve. But P12 in the Red Bull is a big improvement on Liam Lawson and his performances. So that's important to see. And from that perspective, this is already a successful swap. Lawson P17, knocked down, and also he was finished P12 in China. So this is a downgrade in performance for him. I'm just going to put that up to a confidence thing. I hope he was able to bring that back. But again, in Suzuka, where he has the most experience, this is not favorable. Although I keep hyping up Suzuka and him having experience there. But again, he's never raced an F1 car there. He's never even raced an F2 car there. He has more experience in the European tracks, especially in an actual F1 car and in a V carb specifically. So I don't want to knock him too early, especially because he's been knocked. Bortoleto, I'm not sure what happened, and Stroll just literally nowhere the whole race, so strange. Moving on to the driver standings here, we have Norris still leading, but only by 1 point. Max is 1 point behind him. This is kind of what I've been hinting at the whole time. It just feels like no team is quite there. We'll talk about that a bit more, but I don't know. Feeling weird start to the season, especially with the gap. I'm just scared that Verstappen's already P2, below by 1 point. Somebody pick it back up. Come on. Lewis and Charles move up to get some points finally. Leclerc P6, Hamilton P8, Alex Albon P7. So Williams still ahead of a Ferrari. We've got to pick that up a bit more again, but some points is an improvement from last weekend. Albon still in P7 again, very impressive. Really talking up those points, as I keep saying. Stroll P10, which I was kind of a surprise for me considering how poor he was this race. But again, I guess nobody really had a better performance. There was no surprise huge points situation this weekend. So that kind of makes sense from anybody lower down specifically. Three rookies, still without any points with Lawson, Doohan, and Bortoleto. At least neither of them are alone, and Gasly also still doesn't have any points, so that's a better look for Doohan, and neither does Alonso, which is kind of interesting that Stroll is P10 with 10 points and Alonso has nothing. I think Alonso's had some bad luck this season so far as well. And Piastri has moved ahead of George. Piastri is now P3 with 49 points, and Russell is P4 with 45 points. So that's a good feeling for Piastri. But even, Russell and Antonelli, again, P4 and 5, they're really solidly in the P4 to 6 range, very consistently. I think that could really be a benefit to them. I think they can sneak up, and I mean, if we move on to the team standings here, the constructors are P2. I think them just being very consistently right there could really work out for them. I mean, again, like, we could see teams moving up, but as you see teams move up, you see teams moving down. So if Mercedes has a way to kind of stay there, I think they could finish this season a lot highly better position than it seems that they would, just by the point of being very consistent. So yeah, they're at P2. McLaren still P1 with 111 points. That's a pretty comfortable lead for now. Again, I still think they'll win the constructors, but issues like a lack of wanting to make a decision today could really mess up their ability to win a driver's championship, which would be quite unfortunate, especially considering that they are both signed for a long-term deal. They've got to figure that out somewhere. And again, like, they could sacrifice it. They're already 25, 36 points ahead. They can sacrifice potentially a few constructors championship points to try to like take points in the drivers championship if they let each other race. Again, like, the politics in there is really going to get in the way. Red Bull and P3 still. I need Ferrari to get ahead of them, especially because Ferrari has 2 working drivers and Red Bull has like now maybe 1.5. We've really got to figure that out, Ferrari. But they are ahead of Williams now, thank God. Thank God. I needed that. And Alpine is now the only team with no points. Everybody else has got points. I think that can really kick them in the butt. But again, thank God it's happening to both Jack Doohan and Pierre Gasly. If it was just happening to Jack Doohan, I think we would maybe be seeing a swap early like the Red Bull has. In the same way that Williams is really stocking up on points, and Alex Albon specifically, the Alpine not capitalizing on anything now could really kick them in the butt. Again, they're in a weird place. But at least they won't have their own. They'll be using a different engine next year, not their own. Maybe that'll make a big difference. And again, they might not mind this per se. They'll get more development time. We'll have to see. But this is kind of what I've been hinting at the whole time. It's like, it doesn't feel like we know where anybody is. And they even mentioned this in the post race. Like, we're like, well, maybe we'll get a clearer picture in Bahrain, and a track that's maybe more like a lot of the other tracks. We'll be able to see where everybody ends up. Because I mean, like Suzuka, Shanghai, Australia, they're all kind of pretty unique circuits. So to see a maybe more European style track, not that Suzuka isn't, but you know, we have more experience in Bahrain. We test there. We'll see. Maybe we'll get a better show of where everybody ends up. But like, it doesn't feel like anybody is really on it. Nobody's knocking anything out of the park. It kind of seemed last weekend I was making comments that like, whoa, the McLaren kind of seems dominant. And now here Max Verstappen won again. Like, maybe the McLaren's car is the best, but their strategy is messing things up, because even like the choice to pit Norris when they did, to pit them both at the same time with the fake undercut, that was strange. So McLaren maybe has the best car, their strategy isn't there, and their politics is gonna get in the way. Red Bull doesn't have the best car, but they're good on strategy, and it's Max Verstappen, so that'll make up for things. Ferrari is Ferrariing right now. Mercedes is very solidly where they are, which again I think could work to their benefit, and so far it is with them in P2, but like, they're really nowhere. Even everybody on the bottom, things are moving around. Like, the Haas isn't fantastic, but you get a good performance from Molly Behrman. He's just able to get something out of it one weekend, and that's a big boost. Like, really, you don't know where anybody is, and it's strange. I mean, we're not at the point of upgrades changing things yet, because what happened last year is somebody would upgrade, it would work, they'd be solid for the next couple races, and then somebody else would upgrade and help them. So we're not really at the point of having upgrades yet for that to start happening. Hopefully that will kick in sometime soon, because it's not, as much as it like feels competitive, it doesn't. It's strange vibes going around. And again, like, nobody's really like knocking it out of the park. The most dominant performance we saw was Oscar Piastri last weekend, winning by like 9 seconds. The others have been very close, but again, like, close, but nothing's actually happened. Though again, there was more of a threat in Australia than there was here. I don't know. Weird season so far. But I'm excited for the rest of the season. I do think things will pick up, especially start of the triple header here and especially as we get into Europe where things really start changing, that'll be fun to see. But there we go. That's kind of all I have to say for this weekend. I hope you guys enjoyed. By the way, I have purchased a microphone. It is on back order. A microphone will be here soon. Probably not for the triple header, but by Miami for sure, I will have a microphone. So if you're listening to this and hating the audio quality, I apologize. Thank you for still listening. Yeah, that will be fixed as soon as it can be. Very excited to keep making these videos. Very excited to keep chatting to you. Thank you for all of you who have been watching. You've all been very kind. I appreciate all of your comments. That's all for now. I will see you next weekend with thoughts on the Bahrain Grand Prix. And again, if you like this and you're watching it, you can also listen to it wherever you get your podcast. If you're listening to this and you'd like to watch it, this is also on YouTube. If you did like this, please like, subscribe, follow, rate, comment, all of the things, and I will see you next week.